Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
We will forever savor the precious moments we were able to spend with our children after such a long and anxious many months of separation. But we are also very disappointed that when we went to the airport to return from Iran, Shane, Sarah, and Josh had to go back to Evin prison.
The mothers of the 3 American hikers jailed in Iran return home after seeing their imprisoned children for the first time in 10 months. Cindy Hickey, the mother of Shane Bauer, Nora Shord, the mother of Sarah Shord, and Laura Fatal, the mother of Josh, join us in our studio today. Then the Unspoken Alliance, Israel's secret relationship with apartheid South Africa. New documents reveal Israel offered to sell nuclear warheads to the South African apartheid regime. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The U.S. has authorized a major expansion of clandestine military operations abroad that includes intelligence gathering for a possible attack on Iran. According to the New York Times, the top U.S. commander in the Middle East, General David Petraeus, issued a secret directive in September broadening the role of special operations forces throughout the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Horn of Africa. The Joint Unconventional Warfare Task Force Execute Order calls for intelligence gathering and building ties with local forces to counter militant groups opposed to the United States. It also allows intelligence missions in Iran that could pave the way for U.S. military strikes. The authorized Iran operations include finding dissident groups that could support a potential U.S. attack. The New York Times says it withheld details on how U.S. troops would be deployed in some countries at the request of the Pentagon. BP is preparing a new attempt to contain its Gulf of Mexico oil spill amidst fears the well could continue leaking hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil a day at least through August. BP says it will carry out a top kill operation on Wednesday, which involves pumping fluids to cap the well. But the company estimates only a 70% chance of success at the best, raising the prospects of at least a 3-month period before the leak is stopped. On Monday, BP CEO Tony Hayward acknowledged the company's efforts have failed so far.
It's clear that the defence of the shoreline at this point has not been successful, and I feel devastated by that, absolutely gutted. But what I can tell you is that we are here for the long haul. We are going to clean every drop of oil off the shore. We will remediate any environmental damage, and we will put the Gulf Coast right and back to normality as fast as we can.
The Obama administration's threatened to sideline BP in the cleanup effort, but continues to defer to the company for now. In a visit to the Gulf Coast, Interior Secretary Ken Salazar said the government will maintain pressure on BP.
I want to make it very clear. Under the law, BP is the responsible party. BP is charged with capping their leaking oil well and paying for the response and for the recovery without limitation. They will be held accountable. We will keep our boot on their neck until the job gets done.
As the Obama administration promises more scrutiny of BP, new details have emerged of the government's lax oversight of Gulf of Mexico oil drilling in the years before the spill. The New York Times reports a forthcoming Inspector General investigation has found federal regulators at the Minerals Management Service allowed industry officials to fill out their own inspection reports. The regulators then traced over the industry officials' writing in pen and submitted the forms as their own. In another case, an NMS official conducted inspections of drilling platforms at the same time as he was negotiating a job with the firm involved. The probe also found that officials at the MMS field office in Louisiana repeatedly accepted gifts from at least one oil and gas company. A group of Democratic senators, meanwhile, are calling for a probe into recent shareholder payouts by the Swiss company operating the oil rig that exploded before the spill. The company, Transocean, recently approved $1 billion in shareholder dividends. The senators want the Justice Department to probe whether the payments are legitimate when the company could be facing financial liability for the spill. The 11 victims who died in the Transocean rig explosion will be honored today at a memorial service in Jackson, Mississippi. In other oil spill news, 7 activists with the environmental group Greenpeace were arrested Monday in a direct action opposing offshore drilling. 2 of the activists scaled a drilling supply ship that's set to sail from Louisiana to Alaska for an exploratory offshore drilling operation run by the oil giant Shell. Using oil taken from the BP spill in the Gulf, the activists painted a message on the bridge of the ship reading, quote, "Arctic next." The number of U.S. troops in Afghanistan now exceeds the number in Iraq for the first time. The Pentagon says 94,000 U.S. troops are deployed in the occupation of Afghanistan, 2,000 more than in Iraq. The U.S. force in Afghanistan has more than tripled since President Obama took office in January 2009. Democratic Congressmember Alan Grayson of Florida, meanwhile, has introduced a bill that would end funding of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq outside the regular Pentagon budget. Grayson unveiled the War is Making You Poor Act in the House chamber last week.
It requires the administration to carry out the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan with only, that's only, the $549 billion set forth in the President's budget for defense spending, without the additional $159 billion the President has asked for the sake of the so-called emergency war, which now stretches on to 9 years in one case and 7 years in the other.
The measure calls for directing the savings from ending so-called emergency war spending towards a tax cut. The Obama administration is backing a compromise deal between lawmakers and the Pentagon on repealing the military ban on openly gay service members known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell. The compromise would pave the way for a congressional vote to repeal the ban, but no changes would take effect until the Pentagon completes a lengthy review on the repeal's impact. President Obama would also have to certify the repeal won't harm U.S. military readiness. The Pentagon review is due to Congress by December 1st. The Supreme Court has ruled employers who give discriminatory tests to job applicants can be sued whenever the results factor into hiring decisions. Monday's ruling came in the case of the group of more than 6,000 African Americans against the city of Chicago. The group says a test administered by the city unfairly prevented them from being hired as firefighters. New allegations have emerged of war crimes during the Sri Lankan military's crushing of the Tamil Tiger rebellion last year. The British television network Channel 4 says it interviewed a senior Sri Lankan military commander and a frontline soldier who each claimed top military leaders ordered the killings of Tamil prisoners.
Yes, our commander ordered us to kill everyone. We killed everyone.
Definitely the order would have been to kill everybody and finish them off. I don't think we wanted to keep any hardcore elements, so they were done away with. It's clear that such orders were in fact received from the top.
What happened when the LTTE and their families surrendered with white flag?
First we arrested them, tortured them, then killed them. In the final days, we straight killed them. A lot of people died. A lot of bodies were there. Yes, our commander ordered us to kill everyone. We killed everyone.
The 2 former Sri Lankan military members are said to now be in hiding. A recent report from the International Crisis Group says tens of thousands of Tamil civilians died in the last months of Sri Lanka's civil war, most as a result of shelling from the Sri Lankan military. Newly disclosed figures show the U.S. continues to fund the construction of segregated roads for Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. The United Arab Emirates-based newspaper, The National, reports the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has financed 146 miles of West Bank roads and is set to fund another 74 miles this year. Palestinians are either barred from the roads entirely or face severe restrictions from using them. A new fleet of aid ships is making its way through the Mediterranean in an attempt to break the Israeli naval blockade of the Gaza Strip. The Free Gaza Movement's Freedom Flotilla consists of 9 vessels carrying over 10,000 tons of humanitarian aid for Gaza residents. The flagship vessel departed from Ireland earlier this month and is named after the American peace activist Rachel Corrie, who was crushed to death by an Israeli military bulldozer in March of 2003. Israel's vowing to repel the flotilla after stopping at least 3 Free Gaza sailings since January 2009. One Free Gaza ship almost sunk after being deliberately rammed by an Israeli